I'm Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
And this is a You Talking to Me podcast. Hello and welcome back to another week. How's everyone doing? Feeling good? In the mood for some romance? Because we got some coming your way.
If that's not what you're in the mood for, too bad.
Sucker!
Today we are discussing the movie called Letters to Juliet, which somehow I have not seen, even though I would say it's probably a bigger movie. Like, I've definitely heard about it many times before. I've just never watched it. Have you heard about it, Rachel?
I feel like I have, but maybe I'm just confusing it with Julie and Julia. But I don't know. It stars Amanda Seyfried. Is that how we pronounce it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Did my research. Got it right. And it also has Vanessa Redgrave and Franco Nero in it. And also the guy who plays Aragon's cousin in Aragon.
After you said Amanda Seyfried, I lost you. So don't know who those other people are. Thank you for informing me.
You're welcome. That's for all of the niche people out there listening to this podcast. Aragon fans, anybody?
Hannas Thoughts is someone who I've enjoyed watching in Mamma Mia. And something that's funny about her is that I went to school with, I guess it's not about her, but, you know, people have doppelgangers in life. And I went to school with a girl who looks like the brunette version of Amanda Seyfried.
So basically, maybe it was just her in disguise. You know, no one could tell Miley Cyrus was Hannah Montana, so...
True.
Maybe it was just her with a wig.
You never know. Did you ever have any movies or things that people thought you looked like the person acting in them?
Yes, actually. When I was in Spa, shout out to Spa. Hannah and her family are very... much involved in this. It's just a summer performing arts thing where people get to act and sing and dance over the summer when there aren't as many productions, especially for high schoolers and middle schoolers and elementary schoolers. While we were there, we had a celebrity or character lookalike themed day, and I had been told many times that I looked like Saoirse Ronan. She is the star of The Lovely Bones. She's in a movie called The Host. She's in City of Ember. She was in Lady Bird, I believe. So she's in also The New Little Women. She's very famous now, but she was like only in 2 things when I had heard of her. But I was like, okay, I'll dress up as her. Like, she's not very famous. Like, no one will probably know who that is, but I look like her, so that's cool. So I printed out a picture of her like laying down on the ground in a gazebo, and she had like wavy hair, and I had my older sister come over and like crimp my hair the right way or triple barrel it or whatever hair things are. And it was sitting on the counter, and I went to Spa and I came home, and my dad was like, Rachel, where did you take this picture of yourself? And I go, that's not me, Dad. Like, my own father did not know. Like, that's how much I apparently looked like her when she was in The Lovely Bones, which that's kind of creepy that I looked like the girl that got murdered in The Lovely Bones, but that's okay. How about you, Hannah?
For me, it was when Because of Winn-Dixie came out. I was in 2nd grade. We read the book as a class, we went to the movie, and at that time, I had the exact same haircut and really face as Anna Sophia Robb. We really, truly did look just alike, and everyone was like, Hannah, that's you in the movie, and I was like, yep, that's me.
Like, she's in Bridge to Terabithia, right? Is that
Correct.
her? Mm-hmm. I see that totally.
Yeah, younger me and younger her looked pretty identical. Now I would not say we look as similar, but all right. Well, I guess we decided to start this episode with a bit of a tangent, but we are once again talking about Letters to Juliet, and I'm going to give you a quick recap of what the movie is all about. Letters to Juliet follows a woman named Sophie who is currently a fact checker at the New Yorker, but wants to be a writer. She and her fiancé Victor take a pre-wedding honeymoon to Verona, Italy, because Victor is opening his own restaurant in a few weeks. The pre-honeymoon turns into time spent apart for the couple, which they are both fine with. As Victor is on his journey finding suppliers for his restaurant, Sophie embarks on her own great adventure. One day when she is sightseeing, Sophie notices a bunch of women writing letters and hanging them on a wall at Juliet Capulet's house. She sits down to write about what she is seeing when a woman comes and puts the letters in a basket and leaves with them. Sophie follows the woman into a building where a group of 3 other women are. The women call themselves Juliet's secretaries. These women spend every day replying to the letters written to Juliet to give some hope and guidance to the women seeking advice. Sophie finds a hidden letter one day and reads it. It is a letter from Claire, and it was written 50 years ago. The other women let her reply to this letter. Less than a week later, Claire's grandson Charlie shows up and demands to talk to whoever wrote the letter. He is not happy about his grandmother going on an adventure which he believes will only lead to disappointment. Sophie, Charlie, and Claire go on a thrilling journey to find Claire's long-lost lover, Lorenzo. As the journey goes on, Sophie questions her relationship with Victor and starts to fall for Charlie. Against all odds, Sophie finds her true love while helping Claire find her long-lost love. Back at home, Sophie ends things with Victor and submits her first writing piece, which will be her first published piece of work. She then goes back to Italy to celebrate the wedding between Lorenzo and Claire, which is where she confesses her feelings to Charlie. Despite the messiness of life, true love always finds a way when one is true to who they are and what they want.
So what did you think of this movie, Hannah? Tell me your thoughts.
I am actually surprised I liked it because it is a rom-com. I'm not typically a person who's loving rom-com movies.
Yeah, or chick flicks, as some people may call them. This would definitely fall in that category with almost a full woman cast. I mean, main characters. I mean, Charlie's in it, and he does become a main character, but it's really like woman-led, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought that was great that women, rule the cast members. I think overall it was just a good movie. I thought that it didn't feel like it was too long or too short. I thought that the storyline was interesting. I liked that it was not placed in America. I just liked, some other scenery. What did you think?
I really liked the acting in it, but I would also say that it was cute, but that I don't like Charlie. I did not like their storyline. I did not like Sophie and Charlie getting together. I didn't want her to stay with Victor, but I wanted her to find someone else, or just I wanted him to be nicer. He was like such a jerk like the whole first half that we saw him. And then he was nice like one time, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I like him."
Oh, I agree. So I love the grandma's storyline or Claire's storyline. I thought that was amazing, but I wanted Sophie to just like end up single and be like, oh, look at me. I'm starting my own life being a writer. I did not like Charlie, and I thought Victor was the worst. I didn't like him either.
I could have seen Sophie being a writer for the New Yorker and like traveling to places and finding unique stories, the unusual stories in these grand places. Verona, which is where it takes place, could have had all these crazy, very surface level stories. You know what I mean? That she could have written about, oh, the pasta of Italy, how's it made? Something boring, right? But she found this very interesting, very personal story about people who write letters to Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, and they're having trouble with love or asking for advice on something with their kids, or they're going through an illness that they're having trouble accepting, anything like that, So I thought that it could have been anything, and she picked this really interesting thing, and this was a very interesting storyline for a movie. I've never really watched anything like this. Maybe it's out there. You realize Hannah and I haven't watched any movies ever, so there's probably a ton and we're just unaware, but I liked the storyline and the idea behind it.
Yeah, and I agree that the storyline was just so interesting, and it actually was filmed mostly in Italy, which I really appreciated because then it's not just on some set or it says it's in Italy and it's shot in like Toronto or something. I really enjoy that landscape. Maybe it's because I'm a person who really loves to travel and I haven't been to Italy, but I really want to be to Italy. But I really loved the scenery that was in there, and I loved watching them drive around to all these different places, because as they're going on a journey to find Lorenzo, they really cover a lot of land.
Yeah, they go from, I don't even know what the circumference or whatever of land that they did, but they drew a mark and drew a circle around because there are all of these people named Lorenzo with the same first and last name. It's Italy. They're not always that creative with their names, especially Italian people like to name their children after themselves or after their grandparents and stuff. And so there's like, oh yeah, I'm Lorenzo. Okay, but you're like 15. Oh yeah, my dad's also Lorenzo. Oh yeah, my grandpa's also Lorenzo. That was hilarious to me. They covered so much space. And yeah, they had a lot of, sweeping driving scenes. And you know what? I could not have asked for enough of those because there were so many, but it was just so beautiful every time. The landscape, the scenery, everything. Oh, I loved the cityscapes. I loved the countrysides. Everything about Italy is beautiful. I don't understand how they did this, but you don't see this type of beauty in America, I will tell you that.
I will say the only thing relating to it being in Italy that I did not like was that sometimes they were speaking Italian and they didn't put up on the screen what they were saying. I even had subtitles turned on and it just said speaking Italian. And I was like, thank you. That is so helpful. I clearly know what that means.
That was pretty funny. I think it's because most of this movie is from Sophie's point of view, and so she was just like lost the whole time, which here is what I'm going to say. If you are marrying a man who is Italian and speaks Italian, how come you don't know more Italian? She knew like very simple stuff, but like, I don't know, if you have children with this person, they're probably going to be bilingual and stuff. So I just feel like she should know a little bit more conversation than, hello, do you speak English?
I actually do not think he's Italian. I thought he was, but then she makes a comment once they get to Italy. We've been here for XYZ amount of time, and he thinks he's Italian. She literally said that.
That's something I thought too. I wonder if she was implying that he thinks that he was born and raised in Italy based on how much he's acting like he knows the place. So that was my interpretation. I don't know. Jack and I were very confused when we were watching the movie when she said this line. We're like, wait a minute, is he not Italian though? Somebody explain.
That could be. I guess I didn't think of that being a possibility, but it threw me off guard. I was like, wait, what? I thought he was Italian because he's speaking Italian. And the first time we meet him, he is, I mean, real deep in like 20 different types of pasta hanging to dry that he's making and testing out different types of pasta. And he's like, oh, this one's better. This one's better. And he's literally shoving pasta noodles down Sophie's throat, which I thought was nasty. And then she starts eating it. And once again, here's my germophobia thing coming in. I'm like, girl, you just walked in. You have not washed your hands. You were at work all day. And you just are like touching this pasta and shoving it in your mouth. Like, that is nasty.
This is where Hannah and I differ because that is my dream husband, just shoving pasta in my mouth. Just give me noodles at any time.
You know, some people like that idea of getting fed by someone else or something, and that is so nasty to me.
Yeah, I don't really want to be fed by him, but if he just makes pasta 24 hours a day, I will scoop myself up some. That sounds delicious.
Better find you an Italian man, I guess.
This film was very, I don't even know how to explain it. I liked it, but it was also just like, it kind of felt at times that nothing was happening when they were like going from place to place and trying to find the right Lorenzo. Like there were cute little snippets and stuff, and that is the main part of the film. That's the fun and games of it, you know? But sometimes it was just like, okay, nothing's happening now, and they're just like driving, and it didn't even feel like there was that much character development until randomly they were stopped somewhere and Charlie and Sophie went to go get ice cream or gelato somewhere, and that was like their first scene where anyone was even nice to each other, because he's literally the whole time like, you're doing this to my grandma and he's gonna be dead, and you know that you just want it for your darn story, like you suck for hurting my grandma. And it's like, it's nice that he loves and cares about his grandma that much, but he also like is a jerk outside of that too. He's not just mean because of that, which was annoying to me.
I agree. And you said that was the first time anyone was nice, which I would disagree with because Claire is super nice.
Yeah, my
Like
bad.
super, super nice. Claire is like the nicest, I swear, and she's so I don't know how old she's supposed to be in the movie, but I was like, they chose some good looking actors for this movie.
She was like in her 70s when she filmed this.
If Claire is supposed to be 70 in this movie, it is wild, but she seriously is emitting just this positive, glowing energy. And Lorenzo, too. I was very impressed with the way they look. Maybe that's how Italian people look when they're older. I don't know.
Maybe they were a hot old couple, and I was like, yes, get it. Like, all of the other Lorenzos were like, if you can't find your Lorenzo, come back to me. You know, like, they're like, she's hot, and they know it.
And actually, all the other old men Lorenzos weren't bad looking either. So, really, truly, maybe it is just Italian genetics. And I'm like, can I get me some of those?
Please just rearrange all of my genetics so that I can be Italian.
So, we obviously just discussed that Claire is also a nice person besides being a good looking human being, which I get how Sophie so quickly becomes, I don't know if you say like friendly with Claire and Charlie, but that was something to me that seemed a little weird because I don't know if other people would be really comfortable, just getting so comfortable with comfortable. Wow, Hannah, good use of verbiage there. Was that a verb? I don't know. I don't know how Sophie became so comfortable with Claire and Charlie so quick because, I mean, literally almost instantly, she is like, let me go with you. And I am just tagging along as if we've known each other forever. But really, she's just known them for 30 seconds.
I think some of it has to go back to the fact that she doesn't have a mother figure in her life. Her mom left her when she was 9, Sophie's mom. And so I think that had something to do with like this woman who's very kind, nurturing, has like this positive energy, like Hannah was saying about her, and was literally just nothing but wonderful to her. And so I think that had to do with it. It was a little weird, I would say. Like, personally, I would probably not be that comfortable traveling the Italian countryside with 2 random strangers, no matter how wonderful and nice this old woman is, because they could be a ploy for a murder scheme and kidnapping. So I wouldn't do it, but Sophie also is a fact checker. She has to call places and like figure out if this stuff is right. And so she's very used to just talking to strangers and getting to know things, especially if she wants to be a writer. She has to be able to interview people and find stories and get comfortable with someone right away so that they'll open up to her. That was something I had to do at an internship where we were doing like video journalism basically. So you have to be comfortable with them right away, especially with a camera in their face. So I can understand how she would be good for that because she has that personality. She, at the beginning, they literally just contrived this moment so that she could use it later. At the very beginning, we see Sophie walking around New York, trying to call all of these names. Robert Beale, I think, was the name. Calling all of them that she could find, basically, and asking, you know, where were you on the day that you found out World War II ended? And they would be like, Cancun, or just somewhere random. And she was trying to find the one person that was in Times Square so that she could find the person that's witnessed that famous kiss of the soldier and the woman in Times Square in the photo.
Fun fact about that, my brother and sister-in-law dressed up as those people for Halloween one year.
So she finds that person so that later on, when Claire shows up and she wants to find her Lorenzo, it's literally just a reimagining of her like finding all the Lorenzo Bertollinis in Italy and then tracking them down. It was like they put that at the beginning so that it would feel earned by the time that we saw it. But Google searching Lorenzo Bertollinis in Italy like really can't be that hard, can it? Like, you don't need to have that opening to like prove that she can find them.
Yeah, I get that. You don't need that scene, but I also think that that made it a little bit more interesting just because that is how the movie opened. Maybe it was supposed to just be a portrayal of her doing what she's doing and maybe not completely loving it and wanting to do what she's going to be doing, which is writing. I don't know. I guess it does make it so that the storylines fit together so you know that that's what she's doing. But I guess you are correct that you wouldn't necessarily need that in there because you can find someone with a Google. The boss or manager, whatever he is, of Sophie at the New Yorker was kind of a jerk too. He seemed like, well, at the beginning, he seemed like he thought that Sophie's only place in this paper was as a fact checker and that her writing could never be good enough. And obviously we spoiled the fact that she gets a piece published. So by the end, he is better and reads her work, and he actually asks if she has any other work for him, which I was like, yes, she is a talented writer. Don't just look at a woman and see her as someone that's like your assistant or whatever.
Yes. She was like I was shocked by how submissive she kind of was in this situation, because when she's finding that Robert Beale guy at the beginning, she's like very much a go-getter and just like getting her way in there and being like, yes, 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 like just passionate about this stuff. And then she like talks to her manager guy, her boss, and she's just like, oh yeah, and like just keeps getting interrupted by him, which I understand that's not her fault that she's getting interrupted or anything. And then at the end when she has this piece, like I'm shocked he even read it. Like I'm not even kidding. I'm shocked he didn't just throw it in the trash and was like, you're a fact checker. Why are you even like submitting this piece? And that he read it, especially with him just being like, yeah, you don't have a place here at the beginning. There should have been something in the middle, like where she calls him and maybe is trying to pitch the idea, or like something happens where it's like he has that switching point. I'm glad she got it published and stuff. I was worried that we weren't going to get any sense of her writing the whole time and then finally at the wedding, we see the letter that she wrote to Claire as Juliet. And it was honestly beautiful. I was worried it was going to be kind of just like this contrived, like, go find your true love or whatever. But it was like actually really good. I was like, my heart.
I agree. I thought the writing of the letter was really good. And how you were talking about how she is sort of more submissive with her boss, that makes it even more unbelievable for me that she was so forward with going with Claire and Charlie on this journey, or like, I'm doing this. Because I guess sometimes though I do get it how in work setting you might be more apprehensive to really show who you are, and then when you're out in the real world you're like, hello, this is me, I'm doing what I'm doing here.
Yeah, especially with a male or a female, like the separate who's kind of in quote unquote in charge in the situation.
But if it was like her being scared, or I don't know if scared would be the correct term here, maybe intimidated by a man in her work setting, why is she not at all intimidated by Charlie when he comes in, literally storms into this place and he's like, I demand to speak to whoever wrote this letter. And he's so aggressive, really, and angry at whoever wrote the letter, and she just like gets up and is all confident. Maybe it is because it's related to her writing and she's very confident in her writing. But on the flip of that, she literally talks about how she's never finished her writing because she isn't confident in her writing. So I don't know, that's a little wishy-washy in the writing. I'm like, you kind of need to choose a side there maybe, but
Absolutely. I agree with that. I didn't really consider that as I was watching it, but as you're saying that right now, I'm like, yes. I think Amanda Seyfried did a very good job acting her out. I thought that she was kind of a boring, plain character, really, at the beginning, and just kind of like, okay, she's just a woman in New York. You know what I mean? Like this writer in New York. Like that's nothing new. We've seen like a million shows and movies about this. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, she's kind of boring or whatever. And then she like has this personality and we're starting to get it. And then, yeah, it flips and flops all over the place, where that's, I guess, kind of what I was thinking. I was trying to think of why I was a little confused with Sophie. Why was she like weird to me?
I guess if you bring Victor into the picture too, she's not very confident when it comes to him. It's like she knows what she wants, and then when she's around Victor, she just lets love control her because she does love him, but also in my opinion, she doesn't really like him. Maybe you disagree with that, but I feel like she doesn't like him.
I don't know how they got to the point in their relationship to where they are engaged. Because I understand you want them to be where they are now so that she can fall in love with Charlie at the end. I understand that's where you're going, but I need to know why they fell in love in the first place, and I never got that. Why are they together? It's not like they were an arranged marriage or anything. They would have talked about that like way early. You know what I mean? There would have been something. But I don't know. It would have been one thing if it was if Sophie was a guy and her mom left and his mom left her. It would make sense that maybe, you know, this Victor character was the first woman that like cared for, you know what I mean, if the roles were swapped. I think maybe if Sophie's dad had left, that would have made more sense to me. Okay, maybe she's just clinging to Victor because it's the only man in her life that's really shown anything. But they really don't, he doesn't listen to her. Like, she'll say stuff and he'll be like, oh my God, this bread is so good. Oh, you need to tell me where you got this. And I was like, the F? Like, she's literally just trying to tell you, like, oh my gosh, I found this really cool, these secretaries to Juliet, blah, blah, blah. I don't care how much of a jerk you are. Like, that is at least half interesting. Like, listen for 5 minutes and then go off about your bread. That was so, I'm glad she's not with Victor, but I'm not happy she's with Charlie. Like, he was nice at the end, but if any guy that I met was acting like that to me at the beginning of a very short trip, it was like 5 days. 5 days, I'm not going to switch from, you're a jerk and I hate you, to, oh my God, like, I will leave New York to come be with you.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if it was just longer or more time, it'd be better. But I do agree. Like, if someone had that first impression on me, I'd be like, excuse me, you are not a good human being. The only reason I believe that he actually is a good human being is that Claire said so. And I believe what Claire says. She is like this little angel.
She can't go wrong. She is literally perfect.
Maybe it's because he's so protective over his grandma because he's lost his parents that he doesn't want to see her get hurt in any way. And because he's so protective, I mean, I know that when you love someone and you're protective over them, you can get mean or say things you don't really mean. And maybe that's what's happening. But I do think that he was still rude. I'm trying to like think of a specific example and I can't think of one off the top of my head. I just remember I kept thinking, he's rude. I don't like him. I don't like him. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's nice now. I will say the one thing that I really liked is when he was interested in Sophie's writing and then he read her writing and he was so encouraging and motivating about what she had written and said she needed to finish her work and publish her work. Whereas, you know, Victor, how we already discussed, he is just the worst and he didn't even read what she had written and I was like, excuse me? Yes, her published piece. He didn't care. He's like, oh, I will. He actually said, I'll read it when it's published. But it's like, it's different. I don't know.
No, okay, yeah, it got published and he didn't even read it. He's like, I don't need to. I know it's good. I'll read it later or whatever. I was like, ah! Like, that was so upsetting. I was like, girl, get out of there. And then she was like, she did leave like very shortly after that, but I was just so mad. It's like, I understand if you publish something every week, you know, okay, I understand this one. I'm not going to read every single article you write. It was her very first published piece of her entire life. And he was like, I know it's good. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't know anything that she's interested in or like that she does.
Yeah, exactly. But I will also say I release writings every week and I'm still like, hello, I want you to read my work, please.
I read Hanna's work. She has a blog. Everybody should go check it out. Plug yourself, girl.
Oh, yeah, my website is hannanop.com and I have a blog on there where I release new blogs every single Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. What is my time zone?
Yeah, she's in the central time zone, everybody. You can do the math wherever you're at. I understand, like, wanting to, like, you should, especially if you're a significant other or, like, the parent of this person or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if you are close to this person, you should be invested in their, like, life and what they're interested in. You might not do the same things. Like, if my significant other likes fishing, I'm probably not going to go fishing with them very often because that's not my favorite thing. It's pretty darn boring, especially ice fishing. Never again. You should at least let them go do these things or let them, you know, be involved in the things that they like unless it's literally dangerous to them or others.
Oh, for sure. And at least if you're not going to go participate, listen to what they have to say about what they experienced. You might not want to go and do that ice fishing, for example, but listen about how it was, or if they caught something or whatever, or just ask them how their time was and see how excited your partner is, or whoever it was that they're talking about what they enjoy doing, because I think that that's important. You're obviously never going to have all the exact same interests as everyone in your life, and if you don't take the time to listen and appreciate what they enjoy and expect them to listen to you, like, that's just not how it works.
And if what they do like counters something that you believe in, like you don't like fishing because you don't like, you know, the killing of animals and stuff, then you shouldn't be with that person. You know what I mean? Like, don't just like go along with it because you like them or whatever, you know. Be with someone that has very similar ideals as you. Don't like diminish things that they like.
Now, you briefly talked about their acting. Can you just further dive into what you thought about acting, or if any specific characters stood out to you or anything?
I thought all of the acting was pretty believable. Like, I believe Charlie was a jerk. I did also believe that he was nice at the end. I didn't agree with how he got there or that he was with Sophie at the end, but we are past that now. Anyway, I'm not salty. What do you mean? But I liked all of the acting, I think. I don't think anybody was bad. Everyone was in their character. They had very specific character types and things like that. Victor was believable. Sophie was believable. Claire. All of the Lorenzos were believable. Like, it was so good. And so I felt like I was immersed in a world. I didn't always feel like I was watching the movie. Like I said, with all of the sweeping landscapes, I was in Italy. I believed I was there. Yes, they were actually shooting in Italy, but they made it believable regardless of where they were shooting.
Oh, for sure. I agree completely. And the only acting that I would say I didn't enjoy that much was some of the women who were writing letters to Juliet. I thought their fake crying was atrocious. But besides that, I thought all the acting was really good, and I really loved how different the women playing the secretaries, or Juliet's secretaries, were. I loved all their little explanations about what area of writing they covered. I thought they were cute, and I loved all the old men Lorenzo candidates. I don't know, I just thought it was really good, and not that this is the acting, I thought the costumes were really good too.
Oh, except I'm gonna counter some of Sophie's outfits. She looked like a toddler, like a giant toddler. Sometimes she was wearing like Bermuda shorts that almost went to your knees, you know, bright purple, and then like a tank top that was white that was just like too big for her. I was like, when she was wearing shorts, she looked ridiculous. When she was wearing dresses, she looked cute as can be. I would buy those dresses. I wanted them immediately. Like, whoever was the designer for this, like, I thought she looked ridiculous sometimes.
Do you have any fun facts or things you have to, or juicy details to spill about this film, Rachel?
You know I do. You know I got some juicy facts. So here's a little fun fact about this film is that the woman who plays Claire, Vanessa Redgrave, and the guy who plays the real true love Lorenzo, Franco Nero, they have a very similar storyline to these two in this movie. Like, they were the perfect choices for these characters because they didn't even probably have to act out like the falling in love after all these years apart, because when they were in a movie together, it was called Camelot. They fell in love. They had a child together in the 60s, and they kind of went their separate ways. And then almost 30 years later, they rekindled their love and got married. I don't know if they're still together now. Didn't do any research after that. Doesn't matter, because it was so cute. Like, when I heard about this story, I was like, are you kidding me? And they were married by the time this film came out. I think they were still together when the film came out. It was not 50 years, but pretty darn close, because 30 years is a long time. I'm not even 30 yet. So I can't imagine like having met someone the day I was born and then not seeing them again until 6 more years from now.
Yeah, that is a long time. She is married to Franco Nero still.
What do you give this movie, Hannah? Do you recommend this movie to people? How many stars you giving it?
Okay, coming from someone who does not normally like rom-coms, I do think that it was a good rom-com, but at the same time, I'm really trying to dissect if I would feel the same way about it if it was set in America and there wasn't all that scenery and Italian culture, would you call it? I don't know. Because I loved hearing the people talk Italian, even though I couldn't understand it. And I loved seeing the scenery. So just to view that, watch it. As a movie, the plot line and everything, if you're not into romance, definitely don't watch it. If you're into romance, you're going to eat this up with a spoon. You will love it. I think for myself, I would rate it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 3 out of 5 just because I don't like who she got with at the end. I think that's like my biggest thing is that he was not redeemable until quite a ways in. You know, when you got the backstory of his parents died or that he just loves his grandma and is trying to protect her. Like, he doesn't come across necessarily as like, I'm gonna protect my grandma at the beginning. He comes across as like a bully at the beginning. So I think that's my biggest issue with him is that I don't like that they're together, but I'm glad she got away from Victor because they wanted different things. Like she said, we spent our whole time in Italy apart and we didn't care. Like, we should want to, especially before we get married, we should want to spend our whole life together. Not every minute of every day, but if you go on vacation, you should not want to be spending it away from each other.
Yeah, that is a sign of a not good relationship. If you're like, yeah, let's go on vacation and not see each other for the whole time we're on vacation. And I think if it wasn't set in Italy, my rating would be like a 2.
Yeah, Italy really does just amp it up. It was beautiful. You can find it on Amazon Prime if you are interested in this film. I don't think it's on like Netflix. It might be on Hulu, I'm not sure, but definitely on Amazon Prime if you have it there. We actually have a brand new segment for all of you people out there where we will take one of your questions that you can send in, either a voicemail on our email, or if you just want to email us a question, Hannah and I will answer it right here for you guys. Now, it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about the topic we're talking about. It doesn't even really have to be about podcasts or movies if you don't want it to be, but, you know, that's what we're here for. So if you've got one about those things, we are more than happy to answer it for you. Our first question actually comes from someone y'all will probably recognize if you've listened to our previous podcasts. It comes from Anissa, and here it is.
Hi, Rachel and Hannah. I was just wondering if you guys like or dislike 3D movies. Like, what are your thoughts on them and what they add to cinema as a whole? Thank you.
All right. Now, the little kicker on this is that we actually are not going to answer this question until the next podcast. So, yeah, you're going to have to just wait around and come back next week to hear what Hannah and I got to say about this.
And if you want to remain anonymous, we can do it that way. Or if you would like your name to be mentioned, we can do that too.
Yeah, just DM us, do your business. I mean, that's all we really got to say for you today about Letters to Juliet. Hope you liked the podcast. If you want to listen to more of these, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, You Talkin to Me podcast. If you
There is no G in that.
Yes, stay away from the G. But you found us at least for this one, so I'm sure it's not going to be that hard to find the other episodes. We've got a few out there now. If you want to suggest a movie or series or different type of podcast that we do, maybe we go on a different topic or do something else, you can email us at youtalkintome@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at youtalkintome.podcast. You can find out what shows we're going to be watching on there and just like other fun stuff. Interact with us, comment on our stuff, leave us suggestions on what you like or dislike. You can comment below on YouTube. Also, just rate us 5 stars, please. We
Give us a
love it.
review, people.
Yeah, we want to be, found by other people who haven't heard about this amazing podcast that y'all are listening to. So give us those 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. Like we said, subscribe and do the notification bell on our YouTube channel. We're also on Twitter now. I don't know if y'all have seen that. I haven't really posted much on there, but we're on Twitter, and it is at you talking to me 11. That's the number 11. I don't know how to change the Twitter handle, but that's the one they gave me, so I just took it. So I don't know why the 11's there. Nobody knows.
But it's there.
If you know how to change it, email me, please.
And for real, if you have something you want us to watch, let us know, and we will, if you're fine with it, you can let us know, and we will mention you in the podcast for giving us a suggestion.
Also, we've started doing a new thing. This is the first week of March, and our theme for this month, as you might be able to tell, are rom-coms and romantic movies and series. So if you have an idea for a theme for a month of what types of movies or shows or things you want us to review, please give us ideas. We'll do Disney Channel original movies. We'll do action adventure, which is not my cup of tea, but I'll do it for you guys. You know what I mean?
This probably wouldn't be my cup of tea either, but if you want a silent film, hey, we can try that out.
We can do biopics, documentaries, sports movies, period pieces. Like, we'll do it all. Like, just give us what you want, because we want what you want.
Plus, who knows? Maybe if it's something that we don't think we like, we'll actually end up loving. Or if we don't and we hate it, you'll probably get a funnier podcast because, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Rachel and I are kind of opinionated people, and we will say what we mean. And so maybe you'll get some funny responses from us if you give us a recommendation that is just like the scum of the earth.
Yeah, we don't hold back. You know that from us. We'll keep it coming.
All right. Well, that is officially everything we have to say for this podcast.
And with that, I'm Rachel.
I'm Hannah.
And this was the You Talking to Me podcast.
Bye.
Bye, we out.